A lot of transformation here with a lot of workers and construction sites. But what would you say has been the biggest achievement of Konza?
Konza Technopolis being a flagship project of the government under the Vision 2030. One of the key achievements is that the project has taken off. It's on course. From the conceptualization stage, we've gone to develop the master plan. We developed the development guidelines. We brought in the consultants to design the various aspects of the city, and now we are at the construction phase. So that's a key milestone because it's a greenfield city. Building a city from a real farmland is a huge undertaking and a daring effort by our government. Now we have moved with the progress we have in the construction. Most parts of the construction now are past 50%. Some parts are at 70%. So we are focusing now at investors attraction. So that is where we are, that we are now an investment destination with serious engagement now with potential investors.
And when you talk about potential investors, do you have some investors in mind?
Yes, Konza Technopolis was envisioned to help drive the country's economy, especially on new front areas, which is innovation, technology, and the knowledge economy. And we are focusing on three clusters: life sciences, ICT, and engineering. So we've been out there attracting investors in these three areas, and additionally city support services. So we have a number of investors who have we've gone through the process and allocated space here at Konza Technopolis to develop office spaces, to develop residential spaces, and others to do manufacturing. Others is for city support like hospitals, schools, and also some setting up industrial parks. Yesterday was quite a very special day for us as we handed over parcels of land formally to 9 investors who have completed the processing and are now at the design stage for the construction of their developments.
During a major investors conference at Kenyatta International Convention Center, I think sometimes in the year 2010, senior government officials were saying that by the year 2020, about 50% of Konza was supposed to be completed, bringing in about 100 billion Kenya shillings to the Kenyan economy. But the situation is absolutely different. What failed?
When the project was conceptualized, it was projected to be built in phases, and the phase one was supposed to be achieved as you have indicated. But this being one of the projects of the government with many competing needs in terms of resources, certain aspects of the project started maybe later. By 2016, we had not started any major construction at the Konza Technopolis site. This building where we are is one of the key projects that we say we've achieved, that we have an office block fully functional, meeting world-class standards in terms of sustainability, and was constructed around 2017. We were able to complete this project in 2019 and moved in here at the beginning of 2020. So there was the timelines changed, but the targets in respect to at the completion of phase one, what would the country expect? Yes, Konza will contribute 2% of the national GDP. It will also create employment to our country, and we can see now we are on track on this. We have over 2,000 people daily working here at Konza Technopolis, although majority are still in the support or of construction phase. We've started now attracting also investors, and we can see the targets that were put slowly now taking shape.
This is not going to end. I mean, you know, as a country, we are still struggling with the issues of revenue and competing allocations. So how do you plan to shield yourselves against future challenges, financial challenges?
First, I want to really appreciate what the government and the leadership of our country has done in respect to ensuring that Konza Technopolis dream takes off. The core foundations and the core pillars that are required for this project to take off are in place. And one is the infrastructure. To turn a greenfield to a city, you need certain basic infrastructure to be in place. One is wastewater treatment facility, water treatment, electrical distribution, roads, and that has been funded by the government, and the commitment to the completion of phase 1 is in place. So this gives us a solid assurance that this project now is a sure best location, not only in Kenya but across Africa, because the kind of planning that has been done is quite deep, detailed, sustainable, and meets global standards. The other key thing is government has located certain critical infrastructure that gives this city its purpose. One is locating the national data center here at Konza Technopolis, which is now operational. So we are able to be the digital platform for the government, the country, and the region. So we host a data center of high standard, a tier 3 certified data center. So this gives us a space as in respect to smart city, and we can actually be ranked and be able to be certain that in measures of indexes of smart cities we can score highest in respect to any other location. The other key thing that the government has done is to give us what will drive the key core of this project, which is innovation, technology, and overall the knowledge economy. Locating the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology at Konza, with the partnership we have with Ministry of Education and the support of Korean government, we are now able to say the direction and the future of the city is well set. We have our equivalent of Stanford. You know, at the Silicon Valley, you cannot have Silicon Valley without the Stanford. So for Konza Technopolis and the Silicon Savannah to thrive, we need a similar institution that will be able to give us access to top talent and be able to drive the research that is focused on the needs of our region, for Africa, and even the local within the country. And we are very privileged that the consultant who is actually leading in the establishment of this research institute here at Konza Technopolis is a top leading research institute in the world. It's actually ranked 6th most innovative university in the world. That's the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology.
When you look at Konza, engineer, 5,000 acres of land, paint it to us, upon completion, how would this place look like?
So we have the 5,000 acres of land. We have a total perimeter of 21 kilometers. Touching Mombasa Road is about 7 kilometers. So that gives you an idea how the city is. And 5,000 acres is quite a substantive space, especially when you look in respect to master planning, which we have, which gives you an impression of a CBD kind of a nature. So 5,000 acres of a core part of a city is quite substantive. And recently, with the support of government, we and the county governments of Machakos, Makueni, and Kajiado, we are working with them to see that also the buffer zone, which is 10 kilometers around Konza Technopolis, is also harmonized in terms of development control. That brings an additional 68,000 acres of land under a well-controlled development. And this brings a total of almost 73,000. So looking forward into the future, this will be a global destination in terms of urban planning, because to get a well-organized location of that scale of 73,000 acres of land is quite special. In terms of allocation of various resources, I understand there will be an industrial park, there will be an educational park, there will be a nature park. So which component will take what? On the phase 1, or the planning of the city, we have what we call the bands. There's the commercial band, where we have the main buildings, which is more commercial, and that's where you have the tallest building. Next to it, we have the technology. Which will be the tallest building? towards now along Mombasa Road. That's where we have most commercial buildings will be there. Then the next part, which includes where we have our Konza complex building, where we are now, is technology area where you have life sciences, biotech farms will be located here, and even ICT farms. Next, we will have a next area which is mainly residential and the university band, and then after that we have the industrial. So, but there is also an aspect of mixed use along the main corridor of the major roads in the city. We have mixed use where we have both combined retail, office space, and residential.
Announcement was made back in the year 2008 that the government planned to put up a science park around here, or a smart city as it was called then. A lot of people decided to invest in land in the areas around Konza City. Now it's supposed to be a controlled development area. What happens to those investors?
This action is actually very good news to those investors, because it gives them assurance of government's commitment to ensure that the developments that will happen in that location will be controlled. And once it's controlled, it means you are adding value to those investments. It means you make them attractive not only to the local level but to global standard, because if an area is designated as industrial, it means your investments which matches that function would earn you more value than if it was not coordinated. It means if a location is more residential, it means you are secured of your investment as an industrial, and the development in terms of building heights, the open spaces will be well coordinated. So we have an entire 68,000 acres that are being added to be planned, just almost the way we have planned the 5,000 acres of Konza Technopolis. But the ownership remains with those individuals. So it's actually them being guided on how to further subdivide their land, what space should be left for roads, what space should be left for green spaces, how high their buildings should be there, what ratio of their land or their plot should be built.
What happens to people who bought quarter of an acre, 1/8, 1 acre, in the hopes of putting up, a humble home where they can retire or they can live?
Based on what's the development and the space within the buffer zone, it is, I would say this is still good news to them, and we are putting up a team jointly with the counties and the national government, the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning, to see that we guide those individuals in their development. So there will be a team, one team, so that the approvals is unified. So their investments is safe, but of course they will be guided on how the approvals will be. They will be able to check the government planning, and I think largely there is compliance. And if you can check these spaces, actually they are waiting for this control, because if you check around the buffer zone, there is very minimal development as of now, which means the individuals are probably waiting for government to give that guidance so that now we can unlock investment in this area.
Eventually, for any structure to be put up here or around the buffer zone, Konza Kotida will have to give the final approval.
Is within the 5,000 acres of land. Yes, KODA will have to give the approval, and we've worked in development of guidelines and approval procedures with the various stakeholders, and including the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning. But the buffer zone area, we are setting up a team, and the 3 county governments have come together with the support of the Ministry of Physical Planning to set up a special team that will be now giving that approval. So it's a special team that is set up from the 3 counties. We have an MOU which has been signed by the 3 county governments, and we really appreciate the leadership of the 3 county governors, Machakos, Makueni, and Kajiado. They've actually shown leadership to guide and make this really a premium investment destination.
When you talk to the ordinary Kenyan in the street and you ask them about Konza, most of them, they have a picture of a real estate hub. Some of them, they also have in mind, a place where multinationals can set up their headquarters away from the city and away from the masses. How farther from the truth is this?
Konza Technopolis, yes, is going to attract multinationals. That's true, but that's not all. It's going to be a location also for our innovators, people with ideas, working with the research institutions that will be at the advanced institute that is being set up at Konza. We believe this will be an incubation place where ideas are grown into businesses. We're going to be able to host the startups in this place, and these startups will be able to grow from startups to SMEs, medium-sized farms, and later on to be our national and global farms. So this is a special location that is being prepared for the future of our country. In terms of future enterprises that will employ the local Mwananchi will probably be have been started here or will have their offices here. We are also looking at writing on the infrastructure here, like the National Data Center, to support the innovation ecosystem across the country.
During the conceptualization stage back in the year 2008, there were suggestions that we should give Konza private investors to develop and allow the government just to work on regulations and develop laws, governing the construction of this site. Do you think that would have been a better idea?
First, I want to Obrien, to pick what you are saying is the leadership of private sector is key. For the success of Konza Technopolis, we need to have the private sector to thrive. And many of those other innovation locations you have mentioned, yes, the private sector are taking the lead. But when you check at the foundational stages, the hand of the government was very critical to de-risk the project and to make the project take off from the ground. And for Kenyan government to acquire this land in this location with all the advantages, closeness to urban city, with upper-town connectivity, major fiber is passing here to the submarine cables and Nairobi. So we are one of the well-connected locations. So government has done the right thing to de-risk. And actually in the plan of development of Konza Technopolis, the government contribution is about 10%. This is a project of about $14.5 billion project, or almost 1.5 trillion project. But government's contribution will be only about 10%. The rest will be actually contribution and development by private sector.
You're talking about 9 investors who have already shown interest and allocated spaces. But if I can take you back to 2010 during the Konza Investors Conference, major multinational organizations had shown interest in setting up their bases here. And one of them was Google, the other one was IBM, from America. Hyundai from South Korea had also indicated that they were willing to set up their base here. But because of delays in kicking off this project, a lot of bureaucracies in the process, Google decided to go to Innovation City in Kigali. Others, I do not know the status of their intentions. Who would you say is the biggest of the biggest when it comes to investors angling for a piece of Konza pie?
Obrien, I can assure you I checked the list of that conference which happened at KCC. There were over 400 expressions of interest to be part of this great undertaking by our Kenyan government. A large number of multinationals, the high-tech firms, express interest, and many of them we are in touch even up to now. We are in discussions with some of these high-tech firms. Some of them we are advanced stages of locating certain functions here at Konza Technopolis. A number of them require other investors to have settled first. Others don't invest in brick and mortar. They want a ready building, and that's why we have those who are setting up the office space. And just to assure you, on the phase one, which is about 150 parcels, actually over 40% has been taken. 40% has been taken. The ones we talk about are those who are now planning to do groundbreaking.
Kenya is not the only African country that is developing smart cities or innovation hubs. Various countries, from Egypt to Nigeria's Eco-Atlantic City to just around here, our neighbors, Rwanda, the Kigali Innovations Hub. And all these at a more advanced stage in terms of execution and completion than what you actually have here in Kenya. So what magnet do you plan to use, or what would be your magnetic point to ensure that you don't lose out?
One thing, we have smart cities, and in addition to smart cities, we have something called science parks. Smart cities provide a very excellent location where ICT and technology brings efficiency and effective service delivery. But real outputs comes from things like the science parks, where new ideas, new concepts come and new enterprises rises. We are a member of an association called International Association of Science Parks, and this association also has an African division, which is Africa Division, which we are also a member, and we interact quite closely with the activities across the science parks in Africa. And Kenya has made very significant progress. We have a framework as a country, a 10-year framework of development of science parks in Kenya. Konza being one of them, Dedan Kimati in Nyeri is one of them, and the positioning and the direction of these two science parks is quite impressive compared with the rest of Africa. Yes, some could have better publicity, but in terms of foundational things that we are put here at Konza Technopolis, I can assure you that we will be a top smart city in Africa.
You're competing against all, other development in terms of smart cities and science parks. They do not rely wholly on exchequer funding. A lot of them has private investor backing and angel investors who are flush with cash, as you would say in business. But for your case, you are 100% reliant on exchequer funding. How do you de-risk yourself from the challenges of exchequer funding?
I think the few we have is because we are at the construction phase. We are turning a greenfield to a city, and at this stage you find the government is in the front, but the handover is slowly changing. You will start seeing now the private sector coming to take lead. Some of the investors who were expecting them to start their works here actually will drive their businesses because it's driven by opportunities, it's driven by areas of gaps that they want to fill by being present here, taking advantage of the facilities that we are putting here, especially the research institute. It will be a key attraction, the magnet, what you are saying, to enterprises, because they want to access high knowledge within the institution, and also to be able to have that public and private collaboration. So private sector will indeed drive Konza in the future.
Konza Technopolis is a Vision 2030 project which is supposed to drive economic growth, create employment, and entrench the nation as the innovation hub of the African region. With less than 10 years to go before you hit the 2030 milestone, paint to us what kind of a city will Konza look like?
Looking forward, this being 2021, another 2-3 years, the key infrastructure which is under construction within another 2 years will be completed, including the research institute. The research institute, we're expecting the contractor within the next 2 months to have settled and start the construction, and their contract period is 24 months. So that will be a key milestone for us. the ongoing infrastructure of support, city support, electrical distribution, wastewater, and all that will be finished within the next 1 year. So within the next 2-3 years, you could say the infrastructure for phase 1 is done. What we'll be doing then is the city to attract investment, to see those private investors, and the core activities of promoting and working with the stakeholders within the innovation ecosystem is to promote innovations. We want to see the startups that can call Konza home. Last year, at the beginning of last year, we ran an innovation challenge. We attracted over 300 individual enterprises which express interest to set up certain initiatives. We selected the top 15. We are currently working with that, and they are very impressive to see what they are doing, and we see that this is the future of Konza.
Very well. Anything else?
This is a very daring project for our country, and the government and the various stakeholders have done significant work to bring the project to where we are. The next phase of this project is investment. We are ready for investment. We are inviting those who want opportunities to develop real estate here in terms of homes, office spaces. We are also inviting those who want to set up manufacturing phases, whether you are in biotech, whether you are in life sciences, pharmaceutical, and electronic manufacturing, logistics. We have also, and there are a range of light manufacturing, including food processing and high tech, as long as it's linkage to technology and linked to the 3 core areas. We are ready to host you. We are already a special economic zone location. We are a developer and an operator, so there are incentives that also will be available to these enterprises, and they will be able to serve the Kenyan market and the regional market from here at Konza Technopolis.
Engineer, thank you very much indeed for your time, and of course explaining to us the current status of Konza and of course the future prospect.
Thank you, Obrien. It was a pleasure hosting you.
Asante sana. And of course we've been talking to Engineer John Tanui. He's the CEO of Konza Technopolis Development Authority. And of course we are here at Konza City, and one thing I can guarantee you is this is indeed a construction zone. Let's wait and see where Konza goes from here. Obrien, Kimani is my name. Thank you, and this has been Inside Government.
We've made progress, but not enough to move us to the last mile. So our partners represented here today, we want to say thank you for joining this fight, but also to say don't abandon us at the last mile. Because during the last mile, we need a push. We need to go at it with everything that we have. We are signing up to new targets. Targets are so ambitious that we hope that indeed, as the world has said, that in the next 5 years, we shall be able to ensure that everyone who requires an HIV diagnosis to be put on treatment, access that test, and is put on treatment, they are viral suppressed, and they are able to live a dignified life.
Chicago was the first lesson. In Chicago, we took down the film. Ceiling! Oh my God! The battle riot was the second. Here comes Atlas Security. Well, thank God. The referees, they're everywhere. MLW, are you really ready for another lesson? Tom Lawler, you thought these was gonna hold me back? See, we are Contra Unit.
Direct, so I'll get to the point. You see, Mr. Komu, I understand how you feel, what you're going through. It's first time jitters, okay? It happens to everyone.
Ibis is not exactly the answer.
A man with low mentality and go give ya million naira.
This was a man who, after every harassment, imprisonment, beating, sustaining wounds, he came out stronger.
Start to steal money like Obasanjo and Abiola.
Fela is the best man in this world.
Let me put it this way. If I had to choose a father to come back to this life, I would choose my father again.
He was true with his performances, and he was real.
Now the Boki receive that you. Now the Boki receive that you. Booty shall see the Boki.
Fela Kuti was a man who loved making a statement. As he grew popular, his profile as a star became more defined. He attracted attention with his entourage everywhere he went.
Fela had 14 vehicles, 14. I designed all the logos, emblazoned on all the vehicles. So when we go, it's an entourage. You imagine 14 cars with Fela and Africa 70, Fela and his face on all the cars. It was real life, real superstar life.
Hey, everybody say yeah, yeah.
When Fela formed Afrobeat, he looked into his roots for inspiration. His lavish grand stage performances were borrowed from the African traditional ways of celebration, stitched up well with his music education.
Now, you must look at somebody who's now read about traditions and cultures of our people, who has researched. By working in the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation means he had access to tapes to show the things our people have always been doing, the grandioseness of our cultural expressions. They're there in Egbaland when people do ceremonies, when they do festivals, the Agemo festival, the Egungun festivals. It's with verve, it's with life, it's total theater. And here's an educated one musically who wants to cross the experience of what he knows traditionally and bring the essence of that and merge it into what could happen on stage, live, in real time.
While performing in his own nightclub, The Shrine, Fela was often seen wearing white powder on his face. Many close to him believe Fela was assuming the role of a chief priest, as the shrine was also his spiritual place. On the first anniversary of the Kalakuta attack in 1978, Fela married 27 women.